Yeah, so do you watch any other esports at all, or do you know about any others?
Sometimes I watch League of Legends finals. That's about it.
So what's the main difference? There's a lot of differences, but what separates TF2 from League of Legends in your eyes?
Well, League of Legends is, they play the same game as the pubbers do, you know, in competitive, so that helps it a lot. And if there was some way to incorporate that by Valve, whether it's matchmaking or just the option, they're getting closer with the matchmaking with the MVM. But if we played the same game as the pubbers, the game would be the biggest game on the planet by far, because it's so enjoyable to watch and to play and to talk about. Like, that's why the game's still thriving 6 years later. So I'd say that's the biggest difference.
Competitive TF2 is easily one of my favorite things, and you get way more out of it than you do casual. You get a cool frag, and everyone works together to complete an objective. There's a lot more coherence, and there's a lot of strategizing involved, and there's definitely a challenging aspect to it where you have to be very focused and into the action, which is great.
I want to try to surprise someone like Civilization or something.
Yeah, just stay in here, stay in here, stay in here. Stay in here. Ooh. Everybody into this corner. Come on, come on, come on. We're in the corner in their kitchen, they won't know. Trust me. The instant somebody... It's fine, it's fine. They'll notice, they'll be like, oh, where are they? They'll start pushing. It's gonna work, trust me. Just use patience.
150 on demo. Rates are down.
Oh, dude. This is beautiful.
When are they gonna push?
Patience is the key. Dude.
Demo's pushing again. Saw.
I hear. Oh, that's you.
Demo's on mid in our kitchen now.
Alright, this is the big play. Here we go. Charlie.
Demo's on me. He's gonna kill me. They pushed everyone.
Alright, come on.
Wait, let's go.
They use Uber.
What? No, they built.
I mean, they had enough time to build.
Because we didn't think about that. Beautiful. Beautiful play.
Can I say my shit? I got lots of shit to say. I got lots of shit to say.
So, it's been a year now since the matchmaking beta came out, and since then we've seen it come out of beta, and it's been more widely played. I remember when it was a new thing, Pinstripe, a YouTuber friend of mine, gave me a matchmaking beta pass, and I was super excited. This game mode, I really wanted to get into competitive. I wanted to play sixes. It was something that I've never really done before because, as a lot of people would agree, TF2 at the time was more of a casual thing. I would like to play pubs, go into a server, and doing that was enough. I'd get enough out of it, and I'd enjoy the game. I didn't really feel like I needed anything more. Nowadays, however, it's become very, very hard to play TF2 just by myself. I feel like I just always have to have someone there with me, or even if it's just something simple like streaming, it becomes very difficult to play competitive or even play casual by myself because TF2, as it stands right now, is pretty difficult to play if you don't have someone with you. And I know that's something that is very subjective, but that's how it's been for me. Basically, what I'm getting at is just playing casual on its own isn't really enough. And I was very happy to see Valve sort of take initiative and deliver us a game mode that, in my opinion, should have been implemented years ago. Had matchmaking been a thing in 2011, 2012, I feel like a lot of the people that moved on to Overwatch or are saying now that TF2 is dying as a game mode probably wouldn't have been saying the same thing. In fact, it would have probably changed TF2's entire future, and in a lot of ways it would have changed how we see it now. Unfortunately though, that's not the case. We've been given matchmaking, we've been given Valve's idea of what sixes should be, and I think that's the more important thing to take note of is matchmaking is not a serious game mode. To me right now, simply put, matchmaking is a very unpolished version of what Valve thinks sixes should be. And I remember back in the day, they actually wanted to implement Highlander. Well, now we pretty much know why Highlander would never work, considering that sixes is barely played, or at least Valve's rendition of sixes. Highlander just wouldn't work, and especially when there are alternative sites like TF2 Center that do this. It takes so long for a lobby to actually start, and when it does start, it's probably not even what you expected. People are always toxic or just don't really communicate properly. Highlander to me is a little bit more of a mess, and it's very hard to take that game mode seriously as a competitive game mode because there's too much going on, and to me, especially being a sniper main, it is very difficult to snipe when you know that there's going to be another sniper on the other team consistently. I know this video isn't really about why Highlander isn't really going to work for the future of TF2. There are other videos that talk about that more in depth, but even as a sniper main, I was offered to sub on a Platinum Highlander team, and I didn't want to because it's too hectic, and when you're used to sixes, it is very difficult to transition over to Highlander. Probably a little bit harder than it is from Highlander to sixes, which to me is a game mode that could probably be the future of TF2 if Valve actually cares about it and executes it properly, which, as we've seen with Matchmaking, clearly isn't the case. I actually had a 22-minute video planned out earlier because I know I'm very late to talk about this as usual, but really getting in depth about why Matchmaking is a flawed game mode isn't very necessary, considering there are other videos that have talked about the same thing, and I don't really want to be repeating myself. Some people may not be aware of this, but the way matches are actually configured is that they add up the ranks of all the 6 players. It totals up to a number, and they do that for the other team, and they get those 2 numbers to be as close to each other as possible. Some people can see why that is already a huge inherent flaw, because if you're queuing up and you're already rank 10, you're probably gonna have to carry people that have not even played the game for more than 100 hours. As much as I want to believe that that's not an issue with the game mode, the more and more I played and I ranked up, which yeah, it feels good when you rank up in this game mode because it takes a long time to do so, but it simply just makes the game harder to play. Queuing up with friends becomes way harder because if all your ranks are high, you're gonna have to hope that someone with equal rank is queuing, and because this game mode is so difficult to play and actually enjoy for people that know the conventions of sixes and expect a meta in this game mode, they're just not going to be having that. That's probably one of the reasons why this game mode is filled with the same 12 to 24 people that queue that hope they're going to get a match. And hoping really at this point is all we can do. Actually no, you know, I'm wrong, because now if you're going to be queuing, almost every game is going to be filled with hackers, which is a huge problem. I don't know why Valve decided that simply having a system where you can vote kick hackers isn't really going to be a thing. Maybe they thought that it would make this seem less official, which I don't know how that would be a proper argument because nobody likes to deal with hackers. Okay, hold up, pause. This is where the future me has to intervene. Turns out that while I was editing this, they actually gave a 1-year ban to hackers that were hacking in casual, and if those same people hacked in matchmaking, they would have received the same ban. And I'm assuming this is an IP ban, so it looks like this game mode might be a little more playable, which is obviously great. More people play it, the more traction it's gonna get over time, and now all they have to worry about is refining it. I still hope that this is gonna get people more excited for competitive because it's a great game mode. It's fun to play sixes. I hope that people are gonna realize that and hopefully give it a try over time, considering that now you don't actually have to go out of your way to gimmick people that are hacking, because that's not fun. I don't want to be doing that. So I just wanted to drop that in there before I see things in the comments like, hey, you forgot to mention this because this video no longer is relevant because it takes you so long to upload that you're not even relevant anymore. But regardless, that's what happened. So yeah, enjoy the video. If I want to queue, I want to be having a proper game of sixes and not have to worry about trying my hardest to beat someone that is auto-aiming, using lithium, wall hacking, or pretty much anything, because at this point the game mode is so flawed that anything goes. You're not really going to be having a proper match, and when you do, that is going to be one of the rare occasions where, yeah, communicating is going to be a thing and you're going to be having fun, but that fun really isn't going to be lasting. I had a discussion with Dane on Twitter about this, about how players players that have really high ping or just don't have proper setups queue for matchmaking. That's a whole other issue. You have no idea how many times I would see people that just wouldn't be able to get into games, or it's an abandon before the game even starts. That pretty much is just an issue with people's computers crashing and not even being able to connect, which pretty much leads me into my next point, that it's so dumb that Valve straight up decides to lock matchmaking at fixed graphical settings. I don't know why you would do that, especially because if you go on YouTube and you see all these professional players or people that play competitive tend to play with lowered graphics, and I know some people don't really understand the reasoning behind that, so I'll just explain it real quick. Basically, if you have really low graphics, it's easier to focus on the enemies. And you also have higher FPS, which generally in competitive, especially if you don't have the best computer, it's something that you want to have. Especially if you're playing Scout or Sniper or pretty much anything of the sort, you're going to be wanting to have better FPS, because better FPS sort of gives you an advantage that you wouldn't have otherwise. I know there's a whole ton of specifics I could get into talking about why this game mode is bad, but there have been so many people that have already went over the subject, and at this point I don't think people even play matchmaking anymore, especially when there are other alternatives like TF2 Center, which I've already talked about, but definitely one of the ones that I've been looking at is Faceit, and that's actually where a lot of the footage in this came from. Faceit is pretty much a website that allows you to queue, and it's so simple because unlike TF2 Center, you don't have to pick your class ahead of time. A lot of the inherent issues with TF2 Center is that people just don't want to be playing medic, but with Faceit, if you're last to join, well, tough luck, because you're gonna have to play medic, and that's just how it is. To kind of come to a conclusion here, it seems like Valve just isn't listening, which is very hard to stomach. There are so many models that they could be going off of, and so many websites that accomplish what matchmaking would be trying to do, but way better. There should be very basic stuff implemented, like class restrictions. There have been so many games where I'd be really determined to play, and then we just have a pyro to mid, or spy to mid, or even a sniper to mid, which I know is hypocritical of me because I do main sniper, and yes, I do that a lot, but simply, you're not going to be having the same experience playing matchmaking as you would a proper pug that you would organize with friends, or a proper lobby and stuff like Faceit or TF2 Center, because over there people actually communicate, and that's another thing. You don't see communication implemented in matchmaking, and more often than not people just don't know what they're doing, and that's not even talking about the hackers and the other issues like the map pool and the ranking system that's incredibly flawed. It's just players that don't really know how sixes should be played. That's a whole other issue with TF2 just having an incredibly high skill ceiling. I feel like after even 3,000 hours, I'm still just learning, and I'm still just getting better and trying to shake off just my impulse of playing sniper in sixes and trying to play scout more, actually trying to get better at stuff like DM. At this point, it really does seem like all we can do is hope that they're going to be improving the map pool, because there is no reason to be playing 2 CP Gorge. At least have 5 CP in there, but that is a map that I don't really understand why it would be implemented. It makes no sense, and in an actual real competition, you're not going to be playing that. It just seems like matchmaking at this point is a system that punishes you for being good, because if you can't carry, or you're playing on a day where you can't aim as well, you're not going to be having a good time, and matchmaking is all about having a good time. As it stands right now, I can kind of understand where Valve is coming from, where they're trying to sort of meld the casual and competitive audience into what is matchmaking. But for now, that's not really going to work unless they try and teach new players how sixes should be played. But unfortunately, it seems like even Valve isn't really aware of it, and it really does seem like matchmaking really needs more time. It's unfortunate though, because a lot of the players that want to be playing this game and want to be having fun in an integrated sixes competitive system are probably just going to have to wait. Obviously, at this point, the waiting factor isn't really so much of a surprise, because Valve obviously takes their sweet time with everything, but I do hope that they're going to be overhauling matchmaking, because at this point that's what it needs. It needs a proper overhaul, and it needs a better ranking system. I don't even see why 18 makes sense. You don't need to have that many ranks, because first of all, they don't matter, and it seems completely arbitrary to have 18. You could be doing it just as much with 10, but at this point it's gonna be up to whatever Valve decides. Even though I've trash talked matchmaking for enough time, I do want to end this video off on a positive note, Matchmaking was pretty much the system that got me to playing 6s. I really enjoyed the competitive aspect, and now it's pretty much gone to a point where I can't even play this game mode anymore because I'm rank 15, and finding games that are actually going to be fun to play is very difficult. So I hope this game mode is improved over time, because it would be nice to just have an integrated competitive game mode. People shouldn't have to be outsourcing to things like Faceit or TF2 Center to just play competitive. You see it in Overwatch, it's integrated there. Why couldn't it be integrated into TF2? People of the competitive community have been doing their own thing for so long, and it would be nice to have that, but just in TF2, and making it easier for everyone to play a game mode that is competitive and maybe switch up their casual playstyle. I know this video has been very delayed, and I appreciate everyone who watched it. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate leaving a like, it really does help me out, and more so, just comment down your thoughts and maybe what you'd like to see. If I missed anything, let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Peace out.
You can tell them anything if you just make it funny, make it rhyme. And if they still don't understand you, then you will run it one more time. Think that I can handle this right. Oh, handle this right. Oh, handle this right. But you don't even know the half of this right now. Right now. Handle this right. I'll handle this right. Handle this right now. Thank you. Good night. I hope you're happy.